Andrew Blackwood is a teen, individual, couple, and even family coaching counselor. He holds a master's in counseling and a doctorate in marriage and family, and he's helped hundreds of families through all kinds of difficult situations, including depression, anxiety, substance abuse, self-harm, stress, anger, criminal activity, and overall parent and teen relationship conflict. Welcome back, Andrew. We're really glad to have you here on Huntley Street. So I've got some questions for you. Okay, we are just a couple of weeks into a brand new year.
Yes.
And a lot of us have set goals, and some are saying they're already out the window. You know, we barely got started and the goals are not met. Tell us a little bit about New Year's goals and how to keep them. But let me start with this. Have you set any goals for this year?
Yes. And last year was a good year for goals and achieving. So I'm riding on that momentum and starting a new year with a lot of good goals.
So you come at this personally. Can you share a goal that you've got for this year?
Sure. What kind do you want? I have spiritual goals, financial goals. We have physical fitness goals, family goals.
Boy, that's great. You're like me. Okay, well, give me an overall physical fitness goal. What do you want to do?
Well,
because you look pretty fit.
Thank you very much. So my ultimate goal is to be in great shape, the best shape of my life when I turn 50. So everything else is leading up to that. So I have a lot of time, but right now one of my main goals is I want to be able to do 36 handstand push-ups.
Oh man, yes. I'd love to be able to do 36 push-ups. I did about 13 today before we went to air.
That's good.
Yeah, that's great.
You gotta start somewhere. Last year 200 was one of my goals.
Really?
And,
I used to do 100, but then somebody pointed out I wasn't doing them right. And then when I did them right, it was like back down to 5.
It got harder?
It got harder.
Sometimes good information makes things seem a lot harder.
Well, that's great. So so do you turn 50 this year or next year?
No, I've got, about 12 years or so?
I was going to say, my goodness, you don't even look close to 50.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So that's good. So this is a decade-long plan.
Exactly. And that's the key, right? You want to set some long-term goals, and then you want to have short-term goals, which kind of build and get you to where you want to go.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. So a couple of questions for you. Why do you think so many people fail at setting out their New Year's goals and accomplishing them?
Well, I think there are a number of things that happen when people set goals. Sometimes the goals are unrealistic. Sometimes they're not clear. Sometimes they're dependent on other people or things. So when you set clear goals, it's really important to have realistic. You know they're measurable when you can say, for example, I want to be able to do 36 handstand push-ups by December 31st.
Yeah.
Right? That's
you can
realistic.
measure that.
Exactly. You can build. You can say if I do 2 every month, if I add, then all of a sudden you start to realize, that's doable. Right? And if you surpass the goal, great.
Yeah. Okay, so in other words, they're not measurable, and sometimes they're just unrealistic. Look at that one goal. You gave yourself 12 years to accomplish. That's pretty good.
Right.
And so you can look beyond the 2016 window. You can look beyond the 12 months.
Precisely.
Okay.
And the theme of that is health for me, which is a big important value. I want to be able to live and enjoy life and have the fitness and the strength to do whatever God wants me to do. So all of these are in line. It's not that they're disconnected and I have one goal here and I have one goal here. They all come together to form a complete picture.
Do you set them in isolation, or do you have other people who speak into them? Does your family speak into them? How does that work?
Well, it depends on the goal.
Yeah.
Me being a part of a family, my goals are connected to their goals.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, again, fitness is important in terms of health, and I want to be in good shape to raise my daughter and any other children that we have. So they inform in that way. I have supportive accountability, which is great because I'm sharing my goals with you now. I'm sharing my goals with everybody.
Yeah. There's a few people who know about this now.
Now they know. So the next time they see me, they'll ask, "How's that going?" Right?
Yeah.
So in that way, people inform it as well. And then, like you were talking about, getting some good information about how to do things well. So I have people in different areas of my life that can speak to it and say, if you want to achieve this, you might want to try this, or you might want to try it that way.
No, and I think measurable makes sense. One of my goals is, and I actually wrote it out this way, to have a prayer life in 2016 that felt like the summer of 2015. It was a really rich period. in my prayer life in a time where I was really asking God for direction, and it felt like a real period of intimacy that was refreshing. And so I'm like, okay, what do I need to do if that became the new normal?
Right.
You know, it's not that I don't pray. I pray every day.
Exactly.
But how do I make it rich? So that's good. Now, you think that goals are best set after a period of evaluation. In other words, you don't just sit down in a vacuum and say, here's 5 things I want to do, but you need to evaluate first. Can you explain that a little bit?
Certainly. You can evaluate by looking at your past goals. And I mean, just because you might have failed or not achieved a goal doesn't mean it's all lost.
Right.
So even for people who've started now and find that, you know, they've already lost pace, that's okay. You can stop and you can evaluate what got in the way. What do I want to change? How can I be more successful in this goal? So evaluation is good that way. If you haven't set any goals before, all the more reason to stop and evaluate and identify, okay, what do I want to be different? Where do I want to be?
I heard somebody once say, you know, you should look at where you've succeeded and why you succeeded there, and then where maybe you've fallen short or failed, and then ask yourself why. Is that the kind of thing you're thinking about?
Yeah, yeah. And I think sometimes when we ask ourselves why, we start to think about grander meanings as opposed to what. What got in the way? What can I do differently? Right. What are the barriers? And then you get to create plans for those.
Right. It doesn't have to be a God is picking on me, or he wasn't, you know, he wasn't present in my life and in my finances. It might just be, no, when you go to the mall, you spend money. Right? It could be that. It's like, oh, so maybe I should stay out of malls if I want to save some money this year.
And
or
maybe,
whatever that
you know,
might be.
and that might fall under the financial goal, part of being a good steward. Looking back, okay, where did I spend my money? Did I have a plan, right? Did I have a budget? Did I stick to the budget? You know, and you mentioned the reality that, you know, sometimes people might think that God isn't pleased with me and that prevented me from achieving my goal, but I believe that God wants us to achieve goals. I believe he wants us to set goals. And for believers, there can be that kind of conflict because you can set a goal and it could be a godly goal and a good goal, and then we don't achieve it. But I'm learning more and more that, you know, we can have our plans, but at the end of the day, his purpose will prevail. Like, I think that's part of the excitement about being a believer. You can wake up today and you can have your plan, but I like to write my plans in pencil so that, you know, when you spend time with him, he can say, well, this is where I want you to go. Or you have that flexibility to reprioritize based on what he's sharing with you in the moment.
That's a good point. You know, even if you have your goals in writing, you can pray about them, and then God might show you something different. It might be, I want you to do more, or it's like, oh, dial that one back a little bit. You know, you're being too hard on yourself.
Exactly.
You have 4 categories for goals. You talk about spiritual, physical, financial, and relational goals. How has that been helpful for you? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, that's a simplified way to kind of group some of your goals. I have lots of goals that might fall under each of those categories, and sometimes they tie nicely together, because where does music fit in? It's a physical kind of thing, but it's also spiritual, because you use it in worship and it's life-giving. So it's helpful to kind of figure out what goals do I have in each of these areas of my life, because some people, they might just be focused on fitness, and then the whole stewardship and family piece falls apart. Or some people might be only focused on family, and then the other parts don't get attended to. So picking goals for each of these areas, I think, is a good place to start.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, I kind of just, I don't know, we hadn't talked before I set my goals, but I have different categories that broadly follow that as well. So that's hopeful. So a couple of quick tips as we wrap up for if people want to maybe revisit their goals, because it's not too late. There's no magic to January 1st or anything. So maybe you've set some goals and you're struggling with them and you're trying to figure it out. You can reset them today. Do you have 1 or 2 quick tips for people who maybe want to reset their goals or set some new ones?
Sure, certainly. Well, 1, be specific. Label the behavior. Make it measurable. I want to do this many times at this time of day. Routine is also helpful. Supportive accountability, very, very helpful. I would also say picking goals that have a lot of meaning and value to you, for you, that will help you to go the distance. That's really important as well.
Right. That's good. And I love the idea of measurable too. Like if they're financial goals, put a number there, not just I want to spend less money. That doesn't help. That's not a measurable goal. Okay, well, people want to learn more about you. Can they find you online, and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. They can find me at coachdrew.ca.
coachdrew.ca.